Tell me when. Okay. Welcome to this Saturday live THT in the Elite Room on September 30th, 2017. We are going to go over, I want to kind of walk you through this, what has become known as the coffee bar. Kind of funny how it got its name, and I'm going to explain that. And it's the next bar that takes, how many minutes did it take? It was a long bar.
26.
26 minutes. We have the Rangers on Skype, so you guys can hear the Rangers in the Elite Room. And just so you know what's going on, and type in questions and ask all kinds of questions or whatever you need. I want to address, there were some questions about levels for a Power P here, and there were a lot of questions. And last night we went through some of this in one of the mentor rooms. We did a live replay of this bar, and I walked through it and narrated while it was happening. And I found there were a lot more questions than I ever dreamed that there would be. So I thought it would be nice to go through live with anybody who wanted to be here. And this is being recorded. So the first thing I want to address before I hit the play button is one of the comments was, when the bar moves down to the next bar, which is going to be our bar in question, this P moves down, and it will move down one more, and it will put a cluster on there. And I want to address the problem that was running through some of the mentor rooms, which really, if it would have been if everybody would have been in the Elite Room that time of the morning, they would have had their questions answered pretty darn quick. And I encourage you guys to be in the Elite Room in the morning when we're trading, because all of the people who can answer your questions with any real authoritative knowledge will be in the Elite Room. Otherwise, it's kind of the blind leading the blind on the questions at this point. So they were saying that if you had a Power P here, that would not work because there's no levels. You have to have a level to push off for a Power P. And while that's true, there is also, you kind of need to look back on the C's chart. We had the prior high of the day, which would be this green dotted line. This was yesterday's high of the day. Then we had today's high of the day, and we had a prior high where it didn't really stop it too much there. We also had a mini magnet. We had another mini magnet. We have a swing point. So we've got a lot of congestion in here. And for a typical Power P, we want it to bounce off a major level. That has not changed. Every once in a while, when you get a bar like we're about to look at, that kind of changes things. And there is even a post in the Power Play. I'm going to show you that. Right here, where it shows you, what's that? Okay, right here. It was telling you that the VAD wasn't telling you a whole lot, but if you look over at, was it this one? No, maybe it wasn't. If you looked at the here it was. This was the amazing, okay, the VAD wasn't telling you a really good story in this one, but instead, the OP was. It was telling you there were a lot more sell contracts here in this chop, and yet it couldn't push it down, and it ran up. And so when that happens, that's really a pretty big deal. So I'm trying to show you how to start watching for that. In no way do I want you guys to start utilizing this totally, or using this as an excuse not to have a level or taking trades off it yet. This is not something you learn overnight, so I want you to start looking at it and paying attention. That's what this is about. There's a lot of things that are happening, and I want you to start paying attention to some of these things now, because there's a lot of things to learn about the OP, and it's very overwhelming. And so if we can start little by little and just get you making you aware that this is happening. I do not think it's a good idea to do not change your power entries in any way, shape, or form at this point. But I want you to be aware that this is happening, because this is huge when you see this stuff. So if you do happen to see it live, bring it up in the elite room. Hey, is this what you were talking about? Don't just automatically assume it is and jump on it. You definitely will need some guidance. I spent probably hundreds of hours studying order prints to figure this out. And if you think you're going to get it in one little quick lesson, think again. It's not going to happen. And do not think you can go ahead and enter before the bar closes, or you can do anything different with your entries at this point. No. But it's a huge story this bar is going to tell us, and I want to kind of narrate the story just a little bit as we go. Any questions so far? No. Okay. I think I've touched on most of the comments and questions that came up from last night's session with the Lions. They had a lot of questions that came up, and they thought that since I was showing them this, a few people thought that that meant they could go in if they saw this before the bar closed or early, or then that means they didn't need a level. It really doesn't. But this particular bar we're about to see is so huge and powerful that I wasn't in the slightest bit concerned there was no level, because this bar told the entire story, which it doesn't happen very often. So this is a really unique situation, but it's really important. So I wanted everybody to see it. Grant, I have no idea why you don't have any audio. Are your speakers turned up? That's all I can figure. Everybody seems to have it. Keep trying, I guess, is all I can say, and it is being recorded. So, so the next bar is the bar in question, and when it pops over, I'm going to see if I can get it in the middle of my chart. And it isn't this third bar, is it? It is the fourth bar, right?
It's the fourth one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the one after this.
Okay, I only saw it last night, so can't expect me to remember.
Yeah, that comes with age.
Oh, stop. Okay, see if I can move this over a little bit more. I wanted to show the C's chart just to show where we are in relation to levels. And I pointed out last night that the actual start of this uptrend would have been right down here. And you had plenty of levels. They weren't in front of the start, but you're actually starting at the green ice settlement, the low of today. You got a swing level that it bounces off from. And so that's actually kind of the start of the very beginning of this trend. And then you had a little pullback. And then you had another pullback, and this one did not say it was HD. You had a power P, but you really didn't have any strong level you're going off from here. So, for a scalp, maybe, if you're taking the best of the best, maybe not. Oh, you couldn't take that one, that's right. It didn't have 3 bars in the same direction. Geez, Gary, you didn't even correct me on that.
I'm sorry.
You got to have
I'm
3
not
bars.
paying attention. I'm looking at something else.
Well, stop it.
I'm looking at apex symbols on your chart.
You gotta have 3 bars in
HD.
the same direction. Yeah, look at that later. 3 bars in the same direction in order to have a power P, and there weren't. There were only 2. So this power P is not valid. Okay, so we're still waiting on this bar to start. The minute I rush it, it's gonna...
Fast forward that baby.
I am a little bit. That's the bar we really want. Come on, one more tick. Squish them together a little bit more because I want, there we go. Okay, we got our bar starting, the one in question. What I want you to notice is we're at minus 67 and it's not going down. You have 73, 66, 70 short contracts and it's kind of pushing up a little bit. That's kind of not normal. Pushing down a little bit. You'll notice on this bar you had 45 short contracts in your net and it closed the bar down. And on this one it took 235 to close the bar down. But here it's barely even pushing it. Hardly at all. Let's see if I can push this over a little bit more. Okay. So I really want to show right in the middle, if I can get it there. Okay. Can everybody see that pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you can see now we're down to a minus 12 as the net or the total builds, and it's just sitting still. Now we're building more short contracts here, and it's not going down. It's just sitting there. And that's what I noticed first on this bar. It's just sitting here. And now notice also, we're getting some expected volume coming in here, where it was really low before. But the expected volume is coming in. It's starting to come in. So we've still got a low total on this bar compared to this one and this one. And I believe even, come on, move over. No. Okay, yep, we're already ahead of that bar for net, or for total, I mean. So it's slowly building. And you can see it's been playing on the lower half of this bar. If you look at your bar range, it goes all the way to up here. So it's playing on the lower half of the bar. And it's, you know, so far taking, where's our timer bar? 2 minutes and almost 3 minutes. Yeah. So, you know, it's taken a little while. And as we have learned, it's a long time for this bar to form. But it's what it's showing. You have 212 net short contracts. And what's it doing? It's going up. You wouldn't expect that. If you have 203, 200 and whatever short contracts, you would expect it to be pushing down. Okay, now you got a few buyers coming in, or you did have for a minute. And if you notice that the buyers, okay, they're not coming in now. You got more sellers coming in. And what's happening to the price? Still sitting there. It's not pushing down. Here it took 235 and it closed the bar down. So the buyers are coming in and they're putting up quite a fight in here. And you know, as in the Elite Room, we were watching that live, and this kind of got nicknamed a coffee bar because this is the bar that everybody looks at and they're going, oh, it's still on the same bar. I'm going to go get some coffee. It's also the same bar that if you do that, you're going to miss the move. When you find yourself bored with a bar that it's taking forever, those are the ones you do not want to get up and go get coffee or anything. Stay at your computer, watch that bar. It's building. When that goes, it's probably going to go. Unless it's had a really big run and this is after a huge run. which this was kind of jigging and jagging. It wasn't, I wouldn't call that a big run. So it's just hanging in there. But you have still 170 contracts, 170-ish contracts, and it's short, and it's still pushing up a little bit. And now you've got a few buyers coming in because there's a few less shorts. So it takes just a few buyers coming in to push it up.
Hey, Lauren,
Yeah.
on that 840 on the short, that's where I got the, well, you got it too. It's highlighted. Never mind. That was a block order. Was that a block order? That's what I got. I got a line right there.
Yeah, I have my off.
Okay.
I don't like blockers in NQ.
We do have an echo now.
Yeah, I hit the echo too.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so turn my speakers down. Maybe that'll help.
That's
Okay.
better looking.
So we still have, now we're down to minus 47. So you got buyers coming in and taking over. And, you know, it went up pretty quickly when just a few buyers went in. And it's still, now we've got a cluster here. And it still is not, it should be with as many, you got 3,300 total. And you're still got more, you've had more sellers almost the entire bar. And yet it's not pushing down. Tommy said he stayed out because expected volume was so low. Well, and this is the current bar, so you really can't tell a whole lot, but it started to increase. So as this goes, it's going to keep increasing. But you see now we have a minus 14. That means the buyers are coming in because it's almost even. And look at how quickly it does move up. Now we have a minus 1, okay, minus 24, and it turns orange when the bar is below the open, but you had a positive net for a little bit. So it's a huge battle, and we know it's a huge battle, of course. The bar wouldn't take that long if it wasn't a huge battle. But just keep watching the sells come in, yet it can't push down. And just a few buys come in, and it goes just up fairly easily. You see how that just, as soon as a few buyers come in, it just comes right up. And it can go all the way up to here before this bar would close up. So we're still playing in the bottom half of the bar, but it doesn't take only, you know, a few tens of buyers and it's going up. We had 200 sellers and it couldn't push it down. This is what I really wanted you to see, how huge this was. This bar was an incredible, it told an incredible story. Does the location of the cluster mean anything on this bar? No. It just means it played down there. The struggle was down there. And that was huge. It was a big struggle down here, but it doesn't mean anything.
Laura, where did you get in, Sha?
Where did I get in?
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say, but I got in right down here underneath the cluster before the cluster even formed.
That's what I want you to say.
I saw the struggle really early.
Trade.
Yeah, I did a short trade. I also want everybody to see how you're starting out the power plays, and occasionally we get a little complaining that there's not enough trades. I want more trades. I want to do regular C's because, you know, I need more entries. Well, you just want to push buttons, really. But if I want to show you what's coming, if you can get these power trades down, there is so much more coming that you have no idea. So this is the start of what's to come, and it's huge, and you're going to love it. But you have to do in the right order, or you're just going to get lost in the shuffle. You've got to learn the power trades first. The power trades are going to teach you to read the market, And the better you can do that, the better you'll be able to do the sharp trades when the time comes. So it's important that you stick with your power trades for now, but I want you to get a little taste of what's coming. And there are going to be some amazing trades. John alluded to them a little bit in one of the webinars. And, you know, there's several different kinds. And they're amazing, and they're really a lot of fun because the risk, your stop is very low with them. But if you're not reading it right, you're going to get stopped out every time. So it's really important that you know how to read the market, and you know when you see a power play, when you've missed a power play, even if you see it after the fact, it's really important to be able to tell when there's been a power play. And so it's just really, you just got to do your power plays and learn them first. But as we're going, we still have a minus. We still have a short net here. And it's still not pushing it down. Now, the one thing that I was a little worried, because I got in very early, and I've had this happen where I've gotten in on a shark trade, and they'll be pushing and pushing and pushing, and all at once, it's like the buyers give up, and it just goes whooshing on down. So that does happen. So I have to admit, I was getting a little nervous by this time. It was taking so long. And it's pretty crazy, but you have just a few buyers and you're playing on the upper half of the bar now. So that's incredibly huge. It's just building and building and building. My stop was, I had some at 3 and some at 4. I might have even had one at 2. I don't remember. I had a few in, just kind of sprinkled them in there. But that will come, and you know, we'll teach you how to do all that stuff. But it's really important to get the power trades down first. But to start to watch some of this stuff. And today someone said, well, I have the simple OP chart up that doesn't have the numbers on it. And sorry, and you can't get this story from that kind of chart. So if you have just a simple OP without the numbers on, you're not going to see this kind of stuff. So, and if that's fine, then you can catch it later when you can read it a little bit better. Like salt, add a little more till you like it. Yeah. So, I mean, in order to see this, of course, you have to have the numbers in here, or you wouldn't be able to. But you can see where the biggest part of the battle took place. The numbers are bigger right in this area. And the cells are not giving up. You got minus 71. It's trying to push it down some. And it's trying its best. And now you're getting 62 for a total. So you're getting bigger than the previous bars. You're building your volume. And it's just keeping on building until it's going to go. When this bar goes, and this is your ultimate tight chop. It's so tight that it's not changing the bars. It's on the same bar. And that's what I mean when you have your timer bar over here is really big. That's what we mean by time chop, because this is chop. It's just going up and down. And if you had your 66720 chart up, you're going to see it was just chopping. And your timer bar just keeps on going. We're up to, what, 13 minutes? Almost 13.6 minutes. Is that right? Yes, it seems like it was. How long was this bar altogether?
26.
So we still have 10 more minutes, 13 minutes.
We're halfway through now.
We're not seeing the OP chart. It's covered by the C's chart. That's not good.
I can see it.
You got it,
Okay,
Lauren.
okay. If you got it, then you just need to scroll to the right, Marvino. Okay. It's really all you need to see is this one bar. And you can see I've got my bar range indicator on here, and this is where it needs to go to form a new number down here, and this is where it needs to go to form a new number down here. Oh, and I didn't mention, I kind of forgot. When you get it, it put a cluster in way down here, and when it put that cluster in, it had not been up to the top half of the bar yet. It was still playing on the bottom half. And that was one reason that also gave me the indication it was going to be going up, because when you have a cluster bar, very seldom will it ever go on a bar without a wick. Now, I say that, and then right over here on my C chart, you're going to see one. It does happen, but very seldom do you ever see a cluster on a bar without a wick. They take a long time. And the reason you have a cluster on those bars that take a long time is because the contracts build and you get more of them in there at a certain level. So you're going to have a cluster. And it had played down here so long, the chances of it going down when it made that cluster without ever going on up were so slim that my original intention was, well, there wasn't a cluster there, but once the cluster came in, I thought, oh, good, I can sit through this because it's going to go up at least and play up here. And when it did, I did take off a couple contracts up here, because how did I know if it was going to just go ahead and drop the bottom out and drop out eventually? So I did lighten my risk up and took between 10 and 15 ticks on a couple contracts and got them out. So just a little note there that when you have a cluster come in and it didn't play up on top of the bar, chances are really good it's going to go up there yet. And it did. And I forgot to call your attention to that when it was happening. My apologies. But it didn't over here. You can see there's an example of where it didn't. It was just a plain old bar that did not have wick. So it does happen. And since it happened there, the chances of it happening again are extremely slim. Yeah, Marion said I did have enough room to get at least 10 ticks, and I did. So I just decided at that point, probably by this point, I don't remember exactly where it was, but I had taken off enough contracts at 10 ticks that it was fine. I left my stop where they were, just below the bar range, and I would have broke even had it just dove on down. And if I would have been wrong, I would have just broke even. So I was okay with that. And but that was, I didn't want to take too many off because I wanted to trail as many up as I could, and I ended up only trailing one up. I got nervous. But so it's, you can see now that we're the bar is green for a minute here, and we're still at a negative 102. So the sellers are still more sellers than there are buyers, and it still can't push it down. Harlan says, should have had someone bring you coffee during that. Seriously, this is where you find yourself saying, oh my gosh, we're still on that bar. It hasn't moved. Pay attention. When those bars are forming, those are the ones that you want to be around when they're done. And in this case, our apex indicators, the P, when this bar closes, our P is going to actually move. And we had a power, we know we're going to, if it closes up, we know we're going to have a power P here. So our apex indicators are telling us it's a pretty good chance it's closing up. So your apex is telling you, yup. And just my experience is telling me, yeah, it's probably going up, because we still have 81 cells and it cannot push it down. When we had 81 cells on this, it closed down. So that's where I really wanted you to watch that, those cells coming in, and it's pushing up. That's really important to watch.
Okay, guys.
And yeah, you have, well, yeah, you have HD because you're coming from this one to this one. So now you do have HD. So you have HD, so your entry could be 1 tick above, 1 to 3 ticks above, depending on if you're playing conservatively or aggressively. And so we're getting, here we're up at the top and we're getting some buyers coming in. And now those sellers aren't giving up. Still minus, still have 50 sellers. Pushing it a little bit. It's a huge struggle on this bar, which it's just, I just want you to be aware of these and to watch them because they tell a story and the story's huge. When a cluster forms and it moves up or down when the bar is forming, does that give any indication of market direction? Not really. I have not noticed that. I've been in a shark trade and my cluster moved, which about gave me a heart attack because it moved the wrong direction, and I still did great on the trade. So no, it doesn't always mean anything. In this case, you can see it's playing up now. It just came in early, and the battle was where the cluster is. Who wins the battle, where it is, doesn't really tell you a lot. That only where the cluster is only matters for a power sling going through a swing level. For example, here, if you would have had a cluster on this bar, that would have been great because it would have been a power sling going up through this level. But we didn't have that, so. Yeah, this is where I started getting a little nervous. Because like I said, I've been in it where it did just give up the fight and the bottom dropped out and I thought it was going to continue to go up. You just never know for sure, but it's very likely that it was going to go up based on the entire contents of this bar. Is it possible to have more than one cluster on a single bar? No. It's possible, but there will only be one that will show up. Technically, it's possible. Extremely improbable, but it is possible. But they won't show up as two. The indicator will pick one. So you'll never have two. We're up to 22 minutes. And it's still in the middle. 139 short contracts. And it still hasn't gone down even to meet our cluster again. So this is what I really wanted you to pay attention. Somebody yesterday said, well, you could say that it wasn't pushing up either. But for the most part, you really can't because there wasn't too many buys in there. There was more sells. Yeah, more sell contracts coming in and they could not push it down. When a few buys come in, it pushes it up pretty easily. It's just that the sellers aren't giving up without a fight. Does 2 clusters and 3 bars give any uncertainty? It certainly gives you a chop. And as you can see, you had a cluster here, you had a cluster here. Are we getting chop? We absolutely are. We're getting 23 minutes of it. That's why we say a big timer bar. I call it time chop. I don't know what else to call it. This is chop. It just shows up as 1 bar. So did we get 2 clusters and did we get chop? We absolutely did. We have chop before. Basically, we're looking for a breakout now. And we have HD. We're going to have a power. If it closes up, we're going to have a power P. We have HD, so we've got two things saying if it closes up, we've got two apex indicators saying, yeah, we're going. This is going to be good. I like that. The odds of that happening, that's great confirmation. How much time do you need for a bar to be important? I cannot say. I have no idea how much time we need for a bar to be important. You have to look at it in context. It's part of the market reading. No one asked that. Do we need MVP matching for an apex power play? It's always nice when the MVP, it's not a rule, but it's always nice when the MVP matches. You also said to always be very careful of sharks when the expected volume is so low, even in forming of power plays. Absolutely. And look at where our expected volume is. Well, it's low at the moment. But the bar before, it was, we started to have volume come in. So hang in there. In this particular bar at the moment, it has dropped. But it's going to push through. And yes, you don't know that real time at this point, but when you have HD and a power P, if it closes up, that's awful darn good. You've got two things. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. Okay. You've got two apex indicators, basically two different setups telling you if it closes up, you've got two really good trades. That's an absolute amazing confirmation. Would you consider the high of the day as a major level for this setup? That would be not exactly. We've got a lot of congestion in here. We've got the high of the day. We've got a couple magnets. We've got a couple swing levels. We've got yesterday, somebody had the I zones on. We had an I zone in here. You've got the low of yesterday. You've got a lot of congestion levels in here, and a lot of congestion can sometimes be enough to push you up. I wouldn't say if you don't have this situation, I would not say that's something you'd ever want to. You don't want to compromise your levels. You want your levels for the best setup. But when you have something as huge as this bar that took 26 minutes and it tried to go down and it couldn't. Now look, it only had 83 more contracts. 83 more buy contracts out of 10,000. There was only 83 more and it closed up. And it had 200 at, over 200 sells at one point, and it couldn't push it down. That's a pretty huge story it's telling. And that's what I wanted everybody to see, was the story that this particular bar is telling you. Just watch for these every now and again. And that's the bar that everybody's getting bored on, and they're saying, oh, I'm going to go get some coffee. This is still in the same bar. It's still in. Well, when I see that, I'm trying to remember to teach myself to pay attention. Don't go get coffee. Don't go do anything. Pay attention to that bar, and then it breaks out. And we have some movement there. And you've got your 0.5, so once it gets up here, you're going to want to probably protect some. But put it in the middle of the screen here. I just wanted to show you how incredibly powerful that is. Any other questions? It never had leading volume. No, I honestly don't care what little things it has. I don't care that it showed exhaustion on both ends. I don't care that it had a block order here. To me, the most significant part was to watch those contracts pour in short, and it could not push them down. Those buyers had something in mind, and they were going up. So that's the most important thing. You had your cluster, you had you had your, now we have the P move over. If P will always go to the shortest point, the lowest point. There we go. Your lower low. Your P is always going to go on your lower bar. So when this bar closes, your P is going to move immediately. And then you've got your entry. Down. And it even went up above your 0.5. And another thing that John alluded to just a little bit in one of the videos was you have a lot of zeros on the sell side. You had no resistance going up here. Did you see how fast that went? You had no resistance at all. So what's going to happen? You're going to come back and have a little resistance. You're going to have a pullback. I mean, it's whenever you have a lot of zeros on one side with no resistance and it zips real fast, you're going to have a pullback. And that's where you want your stop to be underneath there, or you're going to get stopped out. And it's going to pull back. A lot of times it'll pull back to where where you had some resistance. So I would have expected it to pull back to this area here, and it didn't quite pull back that far. It could have very easily have done an elevator and pull back to this where there was 10 and 8 cells. Just a little, you know, a little something to watch for. I mean, here again, you had a lot of zeros. You had a lot of zeros on the sell side. And what happened, it comes back down a little bit. It didn't come back down a whole lot. And it goes back up. You got more zeros and zeros. You're going to come down and retrace some. Just to show you some of that. So any other questions? That's really what I wanted. After I worked with the Lions last night, we went over this. I discovered there were an awful lot of questions and not a lot of really good understanding. And so I wanted to make sure that everybody got this lesson. No major level, but that signify a substitute. It kind of substituted for a major level, I guess. It wasn't that it substituted so much as that the combination of everything. First of all was that you started, the beginning of the run up started at major levels. Then you had your low of yesterday. You had the mini magnets. You also had an I zone in here, which I don't have on my chart, but you had an I zone in here. You had the high of the day. All of these things is a support. So you had a lot of support, just not one major level. And when you're doing your power plays, do not think you can substitute all this stuff in for a major level if you don't have a crazy bar like that. The HD indicator did not kick in at that point, and I didn't expect it to. The last time the HD had kicked in was down here, and wow, that was from previous. That was kind of a different thing, but no, it hadn't kicked in from all that, and the mode that I had it set on did not indicate there was. So no, it didn't. And that's okay, because the mode I had it on did not indicate there was, and bad did indicate there was, so that's fine. It's just a little different. Confusing, sorry, a little different. Okay, so that's really all I have. I wanted to show you that and how incredibly huge that is. And when you see that timer bar and you're bored and you're thinking, oh, good time to get coffee. No, it's not. That's why we called it the coffee bar, because normally you would go get coffee on that bar because you're bored to death watching it. The next time you see something like that, pay attention to the bar. If you keep having a lot of volume coming in, now sometimes you'll get those bars and nothing's coming in. It's just because the market's not moving, nothing's happening. But we had constant bars, constant orders coming in, and watch what happens when that happens. So, I mean, this took a lot of hours of replay to figure this out. So, it's not something you're going to notice and recognize just overnight, but That was about 30 minutes to completion almost. It was a lot of time, yes. 26 minutes, I think. Yeah. How many ticks did I get out of that? On the last contract I trailed, I think I got, what did I get? 75 or something like that. I forget, because I already had 20 by the time I got out of the one bar. Almost 20, 15, 20, because I got in way down here. So I can't remember. And I got out. I don't remember if I went to the, I don't even remember where I went now.
You went to the bank.
I went to the bank, yeah. I did. I don't remember which. I don't remember if I waited it out up here. I have no idea. I don't trail my stop behind the bar range. I read the market and trail my stop according to the market. So, no, I didn't trail it according to bar range. I watch for the zeros and I hide behind the zeros. I hide behind levels. There's no ICE volume nodes here to hide behind. So I'm watching for, oh, I think I went to the top of the bar range. Now that I think about it, when it got to the top of the bar range, I do believe that's about where I had passed my magnet, and you'll see there's a cluster right by my magnet. And if I were to look at that as a power swing, which it's not because that magnet's not a swing level, but I kind of look at that and going, the cluster's on the underside of it, so maybe it won't go a whole lot farther. And sure enough, I think it retraced and maybe went up some more. I don't know. I don't remember, but I had been wading through all that I could possibly wade through. I can't sit through that much. So I reached my limit. I'm done. I'll take my trip to the bank and be done. Go play. My explanation was very interesting. OP is more complicated than you could have imagined. It's something that you really don't notice unless it's pointed out, and so that's why I wanted to point it out. It's not something that you learn overnight, and it's not something that you should even try. Don't try to even apply it to your trading next week. Just know that that's something to watch for. At this point, continue to do your power entries, power setups, power plays. Do not alter that. Did you come to a decision before the cluster? I did. I came to a decision before the cluster. I mean, when I entered, I don't know if you're talking about the entry or the exit. But why did I come to a decision before the cluster? Because I've watched several hundred hours of replay, and I recognize that bar early as it's going up. It's most likely going up. To me, that screamed, it's going to go up because, and I didn't, it can always change its mind. And I've been in a bar like that where it did change its mind. And it ended up going down and I was in the wrong way. So, but my stops are only a few ticks. So, no big deal. But that one really screamed at me because it had, in the very beginning, it had a lot more short contracts, but it couldn't push it down. So that really told me a lot. Story was real clear to me. I had a very close stop, yes. Because it's a risky trade, but I don't want a lot of risk out on it. And since I put a few contracts on, I didn't want very much per contract. And that's why when it went up to the top of the bar, I got a few of those out because I wanted to offset the risk on the rest of them without moving my stop. So that's pretty much it. But you can see that, that bar was absolutely huge. Tight chop is great before a breakout, and that was as tight as it gets. One bar. I mean, that just screamed, yes, we're loading the bus. Come take the trip. We're going to stop and let you guys get on, is what it was saying. And it gave you an HD, a power play with an HD number 3, hidden divergence, and it gave you a power P for a powerful setup. So you can't beat that. And you even had, if you thought it would stop at the high of the day here, you even had enough, you had 10 ticks to profit. If you just took that. So anyway, okay, that's all I've got. If you guys don't have any other questions, we'll just be done. Go about your Saturday. Matt asked if that's an RSI indicator at the bottom. It's an indicator under construction, under testing. So no comment. Any other questions? What is the pink magnet line based on? This one up here, that was a mini magnet that has been, gosh, that's fairly old already, but I pay attention to when the mini magnets get hit time and time and time again, and I turn them into magnets. So that is a magnet that was a mini magnet, and now it's just a plain old magnet because the mini magnet's long gone. But as you can see, we had a cluster right here and a cluster right here. That's still an important level. I will take that every time and mark it on my chart, and it's in a very important level. I had another one down here somewhere, but it fell off my chart. I guess maybe this, I thought it was one even higher, but anyway. Okay, is that everything? Okay, we're done. You can stop the recording.